Hi, my name is Amy Freeman, and I'm a pre-service teacher in social studies and foreign language. Today, I want to talk to you about how to use the Quizlet app and what the pros and cons of the app are. I think that it is a very useful app in a lot of different kinds of classroom settings. The first thing that I want to show you how to do is to create a new study set in the app, and we're going to do that with the example of Russian language prepositions. We'll start by typing in the title of the study set, which in this case is going to be Russian prepositions. We'll go ahead and type in our first term, which is going to be V. One of the things that you can do on this app is select which languages your terms and definitions are in. So after we've typed in V, we're going to click on Select Language, search for Russian, and click on that so that the computer knows what language we've typed something in. Now, because we did that, when we go to type in the definition, the app will automatically guess what the definition is going to be based on the term that we input. So we put in na, and it guessed that the definition will be on. And so we carry on like this. The minimum number of items in your set, you have to have at least 2 items to create a new set. But you can put a great number of items in any set, and you can add new items at any time if you wish to do so. So I'm looking at my list. Now there is a little plus button you can see above the keyboard, and that's what I click to make a new card. Now that I've finished putting in all of my terms, I'll just click Done up in the right-hand corner, and I'll have this whole set to study. When I choose a set to study, I can click the 3 dots in the right-hand corner of that page, and it'll bring me up this whole list of options for things that I can do with that set. In this case, I'm going to click Edit Set, and I wanted to add one more term, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. I just type in the term and the definition, and it automatically remembers what language I had the terms and the definitions in from the previous terms that I've put in, and it suggests definitions for me. And I just click Done, and then I have another term in there. Now let's go ahead and actually start studying. I'm going to pick one of the study options, Learn, and it'll take me to a quiz. There are multiple choice questions that it starts me out with to introduce me to the words. It'll tell me immediately if I got a question right or wrong in this mode. And as I go along, showing it that I have learned the words, been exposed to them, it will switch up the question types. Now, this particular study activity is broken into little chunks, so you can easily do just a few questions at a time. And when you've done a few questions, it'll show you this response to show you your progress. You can also click on Mastered to see which cards you've studied. It will often ask you what the quiz or test date is coming up, so that it can remind you to study a few days before that. So that's a great feature you can add in. And you can see the questions have gotten a little more difficult as I've gone along. It's asking me to actually type out the words instead of just picking them from a multiple choice. When I get something wrong, it tells me the answer and asks me to type it out, which helps me learn the word better. So we see on, we type in the answer na, that's correct. For, we type in gya, that's correct. And as I get all these correct answers, the computer is learning that I know these words, I don't need to study them as much, and it might bring me other words to study from that set. There's my response. So you have this nice positive smiley faces. It shows me my progress. I think it's pretty great. Now I want to show you some of the other study activities that you can do. This one's cards, and this one is pretty much the same as traditional paper flashcards. Another activity is Write, where it shows you a term or a definition and just asks you to write the corresponding word. So that's one of the types of questions that it shows you on the Learn function. But if you just want to do these types of questions, it's a good choice, especially if you're already fairly familiar with the material. And as you can see, once again, it just gives you a few questions at a time. There's a little button in the right-hand corner that you can click to change the settings. If you want to see just the English words first or the Russian words first. and so on. And then at the end, it'll show you your results and your progress that you're making. The fourth study function is called Match, and that's more like a game. So that can be really fun for younger kids, and it's a good review. So you just match the terms to each other. So if you're doing really well in the learn activity or in the match activity, it'll remember it in the other activities, and it might remember which words that you're struggling with the most. Now here's the test function, and that has various settings that you can adjust, and it'll mock up a test for you. If you use this function online as a teacher, it can actually build a vocabulary quiz for you that you can then print out. So that's really useful. You can decide which types of questions you want, multiple choice, write in true or false, or you can choose lots of different types of questions. And this is really good for practice tests. It'll show you all your results. You can star the ones that you might want to study later. And so you click retake starred, or you can retake the whole test if you feel you need to. So that's another really useful tool. So those are the 5 study functions that Quizlet has. I did mention earlier that Quizlet has some paid version. There's 2 different options here. I'd say both of them are fairly cheap, especially the Quizlet Plus has some great features. So if it's an app you really like as a student or as a teacher, I'd say that this is a pretty good investment. But you can obviously still use the app in a really robust way without paying for it at all. Another function that Quizlet has is that you can create classes. So I'm going to search for some classes here and see if there's any classes I want to join. I'm just looking up Russian, for example, and I see, oh, here's a class that's been made for a curriculum, living language, and somebody has gone and made sets for all of the vocabulary that you're going to need to learn for this curriculum. So I can click up in the top right corner, join, and see if he'll let me join the class. Now, another thing I want to show you about Quizlet is that you can create folders. You can add your own courses to various folders. For example, I have a Russian folder and a Hebrew folder, but I'm going to create an example folder for the purpose of this video. So I want to look up some medical vocabulary maybe with some pictures. And so I've picked diagrams in the search feature so that I'm going to get sets that have diagrams with them. So I'll pick this one that Barb Miller created. I'm going to add it to a new folder. I'm just going to title example for demonstration purposes. And this way when I open my app, I can easily go to my folders and find a set that I've saved, even if it's one that somebody else has created. So it's really nice that you can look through all the sets that someone else has created for medical vocabulary, for foreign language, for dates, for geography, and easily save that. And you can also use this folders feature to keep all of your sets organized by topic. Something I would like to note about this medical terminology set is that it does include those images and diagrams. However, it is difficult to create a set with diagrams without having the paid version. Now, on the app, you cannot create a diagram set at all without the paid version, but if you go online, you can choose from some pre-uploaded images to create an app or to create a study set, which you can then study on your iPad. So it's not impossible to create a study set with images without paying for it, but it is impossible to do that only on the app. You have to use the desktop version. So that is one downside of this app. The last thing I want to show you is how to share one of these sets. So we're going to click on our Hebrew quiz set, which I'd like to share with the rest of my class. And so I'm going to click that ... button in the top right corner and click share. And you can see I have lots of different options. I can send it in a text, I can email someone, I can share the link on Twitter, and so on. So there's a lot of ways to share, which I really like about this app. In this case, I'm going to send myself an email with the link, but you could easily email it to someone else. You can also just copy the link and paste it into a document or a message. I like to paste it into GroupMe, where I share it with my Hebrew class. And so it's, as you can see, automatically connects to your mail app. It's just very easy to share. And when your classmate or friend receives the message on their email, they can easily just click on that link and it'll take them to the Quizlet website or to the Quizlet app if they have it downloaded and bring it to that set, which then they can then save to one of their folders and use. I really, really like this feature. So I'd like to talk about the logistics of this app. It is generally very easy to use. As I discussed, there is a paid version, and the unpaid version does have some advertisements, but they appear very infrequently. I wouldn't consider them a big issue at all. I'd say that you can still do a lot of really great stuff with this app without having the paid version, so it doesn't seem like much of a problem to me. Okay, now let's talk about fluency. If you do have the paid version, it's very easy to import images onto your study sets, but other than that, you can't really import much media. It is very easy to edit your study sets and to create new ones. You can even duplicate one of your study sets and edit it slightly if you need to create a new set that is similar to one of your old ones. So I think that's a very helpful feature. It's not necessarily a creative app in the artistic sense, but it really does let you do a lot of things. You can put in dates, vocabulary words, foreign language words, all kinds of different things that you can use this app to study. So I think that's very, very helpful. It's also pretty easy to share these study sets. As I showed you, you can put a link on Twitter, put a link on Facebook, email it, message it, and so on. So I really appreciate that about this app. One of the limitations of this app is that it doesn't really address many levels or types of learning. If we look at Bloom's taxonomy, we can see that the lowest level of learning is remembering, and that's basically all this app does. But I don't think that that makes it necessarily less valuable. I think that the remembering of facts is the basis for all other levels of Bloom's taxonomy. And so this app obviously couldn't be the only app that you use for a project or a unit in your classroom. But it really, I think, gives students and learners a strong foundation in the facts and vocabulary words they need. If we look at another list of types of learnings with Gardner's multiple intelligences, it doesn't necessarily address every type of intelligence, but this app, it can help with the linguistic intelligence, learning new words, and so on. It's very visual. It also has a sound feature. It can read aloud the terms and definitions for you. So I think that it does address some of those multiple intelligences, but of course it's not super robust in this area since it is ultimately just a very good flashcard app. Another thing that I really like about this app is its ability to allow you to personalize your learning. It's not there to teach you any particular set of content, but it allows you to bring whatever content you need into the app. It's very flexible in that way. And I really like that a lot. And I think it also, it learns what you know as you're studying that content. And so it really personalizes what questions it brings you and what difficulty level it brings you based on how well you're doing. And I think that that's very helpful. All in all, I'd say that this is the best flashcard app available for use on the iPad. It is very robust and has a lot of great features, even if you don't have the paid version. The paid version is not terribly expensive. It does only address memorization, but I think it's still a very useful tool and one that I look forward to using in my classroom. Thank you.